Hey everyone, and I want to welcome you back to the channel. My name is DFree, and for today's video, we are going to be talking about 3 things that you need to know about the new upcoming Goku and Frieza in Dragon Ball Legends. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you do, please be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this, as well as gameplay videos, etc. So that being said, this is a new series that we started with the introduction of the new LF Bardock. If you haven't seen that video, you might want to check it out when you finish this one. I'll leave it down below for you. That being said, to very briefly summarize what this video is about, we talk about 3 things in the kit that you guys need to know when it comes to each character. There probably is going to be a couple of honorable mentions, but most importantly, whether you're using them or you're playing against them, things that you need to be aware of. And overall, at the end, we're going to go over a very brief breakdown of the banner, and we're going to talk about whether or not it's even worth pulling for these characters. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about Goku first. So I just recently took part in this amazing event on another game that I'm playing, and honestly it was a ton of fun, so I was super excited about it, and I got some insane rewards as well just for participating. But anyways, I'll tell you guys a little bit more about it later on. I want to get back to grinding a little bit though. And it's really hard, so bear with me, to break down these characters' kits and the multiple paragraphs that are built into these characters and say, here, these are 1, 2, and 3 things you guys need to know. That's what the video's goal is to, and that's what I'll, strive to do. But there are still a few things that I wanted to bring up outside of those 3. And I want to bring attention to, first and foremost, the health restoration debuff that he has built in here. We'll talk about it later, but this character seems designed in a way to try to not only combat, but exist well in the current mono purple / tag character meta, right? The Goku and Vegeta took this game by storm, basically, and they are dominating in ways that we haven't really seen in a long time. They're not the only character, but fortunately for this guy, he sometimes, anyway, has type advantage versus one of the other main culprits that recently came out in the Gogeta, who, again, sometimes, because Gogeta can go neutral, but nonetheless, though, he seems really targeted for this type of meta with the purple characters and specifically with the tag character. So the health restoration debuff is going to be very impactful. So if you're using that character, you're not going to get the same cheese heal. Like, seriously, they can heal like 1,000,000 HP in a combo. It's pretty crazy when you really get down to it. And on top of that, though, another thing I want to kind of point out is the abilities that he has built into his green card. He doesn't have blast armor on the ultimate, but he does have it on the green. So that's another thing to consider, is like the ultimate not having it. If they draw it post rush, they're not going to be able to use it. A lot of people try to get you with that blast armor right there, or whatever the case is. If you're going for a tackle, that's a different scenario. But nonetheless, back to the green, it does have blast armor. It is a combo starter. It combos into whatever, but it also nullifies special actions, so nullifies cover changes. So do not switch into a character you are hoping can knock out the combo and end the combo, because it's not going to happen. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about number 3 on my list. By the way, I say number 3, but these are not actually in any particular order. They're just 3 things. They're not ranked from least important to most important. They're just 3 things. Also, these characters are not actually existing in the game yet, so do consider that as well. So the first thing that I want to kind of talk about outside of the honorable mentions will be the fact that when it comes to this guy, he is a vanish monster. What do I mean by that? If you read his main ability, it says right here, okay, restores vanishing gauge by 100%. That is a full gauge. Incredible utility. That's not all. There's other stuff built into here, but that is the main thing we're focusing on right now. But wait, there's more actually built into this dude. When it comes down to it, he restores his own vanishing gauge twice by 70% when he evades an enemy's attack with a vanishing step. This will be particularly deadly with a perfect vanish. Post perfect vanish in a combo, most likely happening after that perfect vanish as well, he's gonna have like 95%. He just needs to sit idle for like 1 second. He might have the full clip back, but 70% is so much that he'll be able to get a full combo and stay in the match, okay? So there's a ton of vanishing gauge built in, and that is only further aided by the fact that this equip exists. This is one of the rare equips that I have recommended players use for the longest of times. You can get it from Legends Road Goku's event, but this equip gives vanishing gauge recovery speed. Not a lot of equips do things outside of the typical damage or defensive stats, like attack or defense, whatever. So it's always nice when you get some sort of equips that do other things like this. And this is one that's it's only for Goku characters, but it's been in the game for a really long time, and it's a character equip that's just really good on whoever you can equip it on. Again, any Goku in the game. So this guy has the ability to vanish, and a lot, and vanish very quickly. So do be aware of that. But that's just the first part of this one here. here because I wanted to also bring attention to the fact that when it comes down to it, he also has built in the sub count down effect right here. So this ability to shorten his own sub count is, okay, let me just say that shortening sub count is one of the top like 2 or 3 abilities you can have in this entire game. And spoiler, Frieza and his team will do that a lot. Because what it does is it means that you can switch just that much faster. These characters typically take 10 counts to switch without any debuffs or whatever. But typically, outside of that scenario, this guy will be switching 3 counts quicker, so he'll be able to enter the battle just a little bit faster, stuff like that. And there's a ton of value and utility built into this. So when it comes down to it, Goku's main ability is just a crap ton of stuff that's very high value and incredibly good to pick up. So let's go ahead and talk about the next one. And the next one on our list is going to be the fact that he is built to be good versus purple characters or great versus the mono purple teams in circulation. Let me say that the purple teams in circulation, the full purple teams, are actually kind of easily countered. Like Future does really well against them. Characters like the new Goku Black and Zamasu, Future Gohan. But the main takeaway is that green-yellow combinations work very well. In fact, this guy might slide into that grouping as well as like a green-green-yellow, put him in the leader slot, put him with either of those characters I mentioned on Future, or even a character like SS4 Gogeta and Majub. Those two are 2 characters that really do well in this current mono purple quote-unquote meta that we have in the game. But again, we're going to go ahead and emphasize the Goku here specifically. He does 50% damage inflicted against purple characters and reduces damage received by 25% against purple characters. So this guy, by the way, is built in a very similar way to the LF Great Ape Vegeta. There's very similar things in their kit, which is pretty awesome. I really like that for the record. And I'll say that on the topic, like if you've seen that guy in action, the Ape Vegeta, and the way he plays, this guy will be playing something similar when it comes to the amount of damage versus specific elements. And Vegeta has like something in there for Goku specifically, or Sun Family, whatever it is. It's a very similar idea in terms of the damage taken versus damage output, right? So 40% against blue characters, reduces damage from Sun Family, another 25%. Like if you see this guy in action, it's a very similar design to this guy. So if you've seen the Vegeta, you know what you're expecting with this Goku, and he'll be a monster in this meta, outside of the fact, like I said, that he has other things like the Vanishing and the Health Restoration debuff, the sub count down ability. That's going to be very good for him in terms of surviving the current, again, mono purple meta, tag character meta, etc. So last thing I'll kind of mention is the damage. The third thing you guys need to know is he is a strike demon. So let's start off with the fact he holds double strike cards. We'll move on from there and say one of them is a strike damage up strike card. So that's another thing as well. But there's even more built into this guy that you're going to want to be aware of. So when he enters the battlefield, he picks up buffs like any other character, right? But when he lands a strike art, numerous things happen. So let's start off with this. 10% damage received. This is a stacking debuff. In a combo, you'll probably get 3 or 4 of these. Now, it does have to be a strike art specifically. This doesn't apply to blast arts or anything else. It has to be a strike art, okay? On top of that, we already talked about it. The health restoration debuff is applied. He draws another strike, activates once. Again, remember I said he's built very similarly to this guy. This guy does the same thing where he uses a strike, I believe, specifically and draws another one. Nonetheless, though, this does reset after switch. That's fine. But anyways, when he uses a strike as well, he restores his ki by 5. So just assume that his strike cards cost either 5 less or they'll always restore ki. There are numerous characters that do either of those effects, but nonetheless, he will restore 5 ki regardless. He also gets 10% more damage up to a maximum of 40. That is cancelable, but it is a stacking 40% damage that he'll have after one combo. Speaking of which, after one combo, he himself and the allies on his team will be doing 20% more damage. Again, it is cancelable, but very, very powerful. And really what I want to say is when it comes down to this guy, the only real thing he's kind of lacking in his kit is the fact that he doesn't have like draw speed, but he's got pretty much everything else in here. I mean, you would like actual ki recovery speed built in, like, you know, a buff for that, but he has ki right here. He has ki 20 here. He restores ki kind of to offset the green card here. The main ability restores ki, so he doesn't really, truly, and honestly need it, but draw speed or a forced draw of the green would have been insane for this guy. So overall, though, he's got some of the better things in his kit in the game, but does fall a little bit short in certain respects. But I do think that if he's highly starred above like 6-7 stars, moving into red star territory, he will survive this meta and actually function very well again as a green character and all the blue characters that are in the game currently that are really good, like the 2 new LFs or LF and Ultra. and then also being able to be utilized in the purple character matches as well. So overall, I think an awesome character. And again, we'll stay at the end. We'll go ahead and talk about the banner and whether or not it's worth pulling on. Let's go ahead and talk about Frieza. So just like Goku, I do have some honorable mentions for Frieza. First and foremost, he is a revival character. And don't get it confused. Revive is still one of the best mechanics in the game, despite the fact that there are counters to it now, or more counters, if you will, that are going to do things like give Dragon Balls or debuffs, restore less health, blah, blah. All the anti-revive effects that are out there. Still one of the best mechanics and definitely better than Endurance. The reason why it's better than Endurance, outside of the drawbacks, right? You notice how, by the way, it's so good. Endurance gets just, oh, we'll nullify that, which is crazy, by the way, crazy good in and of itself. But with this mechanic, they're like, no, we're not going to nullify it because obviously you take away the transformation of the character. That's a whole different thing than just saying we'll nullify Endurance. But instead, the trade-off is we get crazy effects like Gogeta getting 4 Dragon Balls. That's crazy, crazy, right? So the thing is with Endurance versus this is Endurance, they get to keep the combo going. It's very simple. They keep beating you up. This forces the combo to be over, which is 10 times more valuable, in my opinion, anyway. So outside of the drawbacks, like I said, so let's talk about the fact that Frieza is an awesome character with Endurance on the very, very beginning. Frieza is a character that has amazing special move prowess, particularly after transforming or reviving. But the special move prowess is very good, especially if he's paired with the 2 other LF Friezas. And I'll just say that speaking of the other LF Friezas, seriously, we'll kind of break this down as we get into this guy's kit a little more and talk about the things you need to know. But there is some incredible synergy with him and Lineage of Evil in general, but particularly between the 2 LF Friezas. Like, they really designed this guy well. And I almost kind of wish this dude was, he fits the mold too, but I kind of wish he was more of a blast character just to kind of fit these other characters. Because really, if you're running that new Frieza with these 2 LFs, you're not going to have very many strikes in your deck, which also kind of makes this guy's blast armor more of a luxury, I guess, because you're just not going to see too many strike arts. But there's incredible synergy between these characters with the blue card damage they're all doing, the sub count down effects they're all doing. This guy putting an extra blue in your deck is crazy good too. The support that they're offering each other, which is a trope for these characters in general, they all kind of do that, similar to Vegeta family for the most part. So like, incredible synergy when it comes down to this guy and the rest of the team you're going to be running with. And not to mention, they have great color trio synergy. Yellow, blue, purple is one of the main trios of color you can get, right? So let's talk about the first thing you want to know. I talked about it briefly, but sub count down reduction is a crazy effect to have. So this guy has it, I believe, pre and post revival, which is nuts. Main ability shortens ally sub count by 3. So like, unlike, doesn't Goku just do it to himself? Shortens own sub count. Yeah, okay. So unlike Goku's, which is good, Frieza's is 15 times better at least, because he shortens everybody's count faster. And by 3. And like I said, the other Friezas, their green cards are doing the same thing pretty much. Crazy good utility. Insane. What that means is you can switch really often. And these guys are all getting damaged. They're all getting all these effects like Ki, stuff like that on switch in or out. Like, it's just crazy when you really think about him with the 2 Friezas specifically and the way that they're going to work. So do not sleep on that. The fact that he is going to be switching consistently is going to have this Frieza as one of the main problems, and he's going to have that defensive utility of the actual effect of having the revive built into his kit. But I truly do love what they did with him and the way that he's built. He also has some rising rush control. This is actually particularly post transforming. So, he's kind of a double whammy when it comes to rising rushes, because outside of those anti-revive effects, which again, some of them are not really all that great, but the ones that are really problematic would be like SS4 Gogeta, who is admittedly in a good amount of matches, and he's probably going to be the main character that, like, if you see that guy, maybe you don't want to bring this guy into the match. That's the main thing you want to consider. And if you do, try not to get him rushed. But normally having that is like, it's almost a wash for the opponent, because they're rushing you and giving you a better version of your character while effectively pretty much wasting the rush, depending on who you ask about their opinions on rushing or endurance character, or revive or endurance. It doesn't really matter. Revive or endurance character in general. So in my opinion, I think it's a bit of a wash. But post, he reduces enemies' Dragon Balls by 2. And didn't I mention Yeah, shortened ally sub count by 3 even further. Yeah, pretty crazy. And then as you see afterwards, numerous things happen, like his arts cards change, by the way. His blue goes from being a destroyer hand, area of effect, close range, mid-range type of death wave attack, which pre-transformation, he just does a bunch of like disruption stuff, card cost up, destroy your hand, stuff like that. He's just trying to exist until he can revive and just make the match, like debuffs, make the match annoying for your opponent. And there you see that pesky health restoration debuff yet again. But afterwards, he takes on much more of a damaging role. He draws the blue here, picks up the key, and like I said, the Dragon Ball destruction is pretty crazy. So let's talk about the next thing on the list when it comes to the Frieza. The Frieza's not as flashy as Goku, I'd say, in terms of the fact that he's got all the extra ways of doing damage. I think Frieza just slots perfectly into his team. But the last thing I really want to bring to your attention when it comes to Frieza is outside of, by the way, I forgot to mention this as an honorable mention. I mentioned how these characters have these buffs on switch out. This guy also heals your team, which is going to be even better with Chilled on your bench, because I don't know why you wouldn't have Chilled on your bench, especially post Zenkai. So yeah, very crazy effect to have here, just constantly healing. The LF Friezas, don't they heal on switch out too? At least the purple one does. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, the last thing I want to kind of bring to your attention is the fact this guy goes neutral. Post revive for 30 counts, cannot be canceled, nullifies unfavorable element factors. Notice how I talked about, Gogeta. Gogeta's a character that can go neutral, offensively or defensively, whatever. He is a character that is almost the exception to the rule, right? But in most matches versus other green characters, Frieza will be okay. He will be able to go neutral for 30 counts post-revive, and there are some very powerful green characters in the game, but outside of Gogeta, or maybe SS3 Goku specifically, and obviously just considering the new Kaioken Goku, because he'll definitely get play, at least for the first couple of weeks he comes out. Outside of those characters, there's not a ton I'm seeing here. There's probably some Zenkais buried in this list I'm not recognizing, right? But nonetheless, I don't think there's a ton of green characters in circulation people are really, truly, and honestly using. Again, there's probably a Zenkai I'm missing because it's not showing it, but I feel like Frieza's safe, but if he's not, again, the endurance will pick up and he'll be perfectly fine for 30 counts after, which is crazy. Again, I talked about the blue card damage is built in there too, and overall though, you have a character that I truly think slots perfectly into exactly what LOE needed. If we look at LOE just in general, they don't have a ton of options. I think their next thing they're going to want is probably a new red. You could argue about this guy being okay, but at this point, he's just old, right? He does fit their ranged mentality though, so if you want to do that, there's a clear split. But nonetheless, though, they probably want another red. They do have this Zenkai, but again, I think they probably just want another red. Anyways, I think he slots perfectly, and I think he's a character you would want to own. So last but not least, let's talk about the banner and talk about the characters that are available on the banner. First and foremost, this is a Legends All-Star banner, so that does mean it has those missions. So when you pull one copy, you can technically go ahead and unlock, it's really 5 with like 100 Z-Power short, which is really easy to get, but we'll say 6-star for the character after one pulled copy. So let's look at the character list here, the characters that are available on the banner. For the record, they're all incredibly low rate, but let's talk about the characters here. We have Piccolo and Gohan, who are probably, the last All-Star banner? A couple All-Star banners ago. The rest of these characters are all just All-Star banners anyway, for the record. And they're all pretty decent. The thing about All-Star banners is they last for a long time. They have a long time's worth of dailies as well. But these characters are all pretty good to decent characters for the most part. Some of them are better than others. Topo, was Topo an All-Star banner? I believe he was, alongside SS3 Goku. Anyways, yeah, and then we look at the other half of characters here. They're okay. Some of them are okay. Some of them are very good. Like, I think the androids are pretty good. This Vegeta's still holding, right? Then you have some old ones that are not as good. But the thing is that the rates for these characters is all the same. So if you're pulling on this banner, the only reason you're truly pulling is for Goku and Frieza. You're not really pulling for anything else. These characters all have, again, the same drop rate. It's impossible to really pinpoint these characters. There's no new EXs on the banner, but I will just go ahead and talk about look how every sparking in the game's on this banner, by the way. All the way back to their literal release. This is the very first sparkings in the game. Every damn sparking in the game. Not really, because the LFs aren't here, and there's probably some side step-up banner characters that are not LFs that are not here, but for the most part, incredibly long list of characters. But nonetheless, so let's talk about the EXs very briefly in terms of what's available here. Okay, we have as recent as the Mai and Frieza. Okay, so there's some good ones, but they typically always omit like 1 or 2 good ones. But still, it's not really, there's not really any reason to pull on this banner outside of that. So my final verdict is, you should probably just do dailies for the immediate future, the thing about it is, when it comes down to Goku, I talked about Frieza and his team a lot, but let me talk about Goku very briefly. So Goku has an awesome Z ability, by the way, where he's got the ability to increase the strike damage. It's very similar to the Ultra Gogeta. It's a new style that they're doing. Strike damage for Sun Family, but then Saiyan or Frieza Saga characters are getting the strike attack and defense. So Frieza Saga is seeing another Z ability. It's definitely the saga that's got the most Z ability support, and it's not even close. Like, there are some that don't even have any, maybe one now with these characters, right? But it is what it is. So yeah, if you're trying to build this team, then go for it, right? He's your best green, I guess. Go for it. Let's talk about Saiyan and Sun Family. So I talked about Saiyan and how they have access to Gogeta and they have SS3 Goku Zenkai. Those two characters, especially Gogeta currently, probably holds down the fort. The thing is that, like, I think that there's room to exist with a green double green, and if you're matched versus the tag characters particularly, you might want to consider doing that. But Goku's a character that can slide into any matchup and work pretty well, since he's very self-sufficient with the cards he's drawing and the damage he's doing, the debuffs he's doing, and also the ally support is going to be, it's not a ton, 20% is not a huge number, but it will be noticeable, and it will be helpful, right? And on the general topic of Sun Family, he doesn't really have a ton of competition, right? There's not really much competition in Sun Family. You know, people are saying that this guy's kind of fallen off. I don't truly believe that, but if you think he has, then maybe you're just going to be Zenkai buffing the new Goku with this guy, and that's fair if you think that. But otherwise, for me, I might still consider just using SS3 over him on this team, at least until this guy gets at least mid-red stars, probably, like 13 star, not 13, but like 11 or so. On Saiyans, again, you have that SS4 Gogeta, but if you don't have SS4 Gogeta, I do think that he's, looking at it, outside of SS3 Goku, he's your best green option for this team. And it doesn't seem particularly close, unless there's some Zenkais hiding down here like Kaba was. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think he's worth pulling in that regard. But again, the banner in and of itself, they'll be back in like 3 months if you wanted to wait for them. But if you are, this is where you might want to pull. If you're an LOE main, this is the banner you have to pull on. You have to pull on this banner because you have to pull this Frieza. Whether it's dailies or multis is up to you. You have to pull this Frieza if you have any goals of building this team. And the thing is, it's not just any goals like soon. This guy's going to be, with how little they get support, he's going to be very important on this team for a very long time. So you have to pull on this banner. I think it's a little less important for like Frieza Force and these other teams, but LOE specifically, you have to pull. So anyways, the video wound up being longer than I wanted. I wasn't pushing for 20 minutes, but if you watched it all the way through, thank you so much for your support here on the channel. If you watched a little bit, thank you too. I appreciate you guys in any shape and fashion. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. If you guys enjoyed this one, check out the Bardock one down below. And if you have any feedback, let me know. I want to incorporate gameplay into these videos for these characters to kind of show you like I did in the Bardock video. However, these characters were not out at the time of the recording, so couldn't really do that. Have an awesome day, everyone, and I'll see all of you in the next one.